Hello, and welcome to Unmasked, where we peek behind the scenes of the upcoming tabletop role-playing game, Daemonologie. The game is a work in progress, so rules may change, but the stories will remain. I am Chavonne Brown.
I'm Alex Wilcox.
And we are the writers of a brand new tabletop RPG, Daemonologie. Now, we've been working on this game for 2 years, you say?
Almost 2 years, I think. Or maybe more. I don't know. It's around the 2-year mark.
Around the 2-year mark. As we all know, 2020, as I speak, we are recording in 2020, has been the longest year on record.
If we were to, discount this year, I think we're at about a year and a half. Or a year and a third. Anyway.
but including this year, we've been working on the game for 342 years. But what is the game about?
It's about Jacobean witch hunting and stopping the witch hunts that are happening and harming innocent people. And it's about working as an independent organisation separate to the monarchy and making sure that the people who did not deserve to die in our history do not die in this history. But of course there are still demons and witchcraft and monsters to face. I think, is that a good description? Do you like?
Yeah. I think it is. Anti-establishment witch hunters. And even the witches in the game aren't just, I'll get you and your little dog too. They're real people.
People who get caught in by bad deals in over their head.
Yeah, they take, it's a really risky mortgage. But the mortgage is with your immortal soul.
Chavonne, shall we say who we are and what we're about?
Well, I, myself, Chavonne, am a writer and a playwright and poet and sometime actor, and my interest in the game was sparked when I was on a car journey with Wilcox, going to a school in a job that I won't name in case we are sued, but suffice to say we both hated it in our soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Very deep hatred.
Wilcox turned to me and said, I have an idea for a tabletop role-playing game, and it's about witch hunting. And I looked at them and I said, why haven't you told me this before? You know I'm obsessed with early modern history in the Catholic Church, so why'd it take so long?
Yeah, at that point, it was still such a baby, fledgling idea. I think I'd had it, in my head for, a few years, maybe. Because, to talk about who I am, I'm Alex Wilcox. I am also some of the things that Chavonne is, but much less. I'm a writer and a playwright, but I'm also a producer and I write games. And I started, way back at school with hacks of D&D and Dungeon World, but I quickly just got a library of whatever I could. I started writing smaller things and building up to this. And at that point, in the back of that car, going to Chavonne, it was just such a little baby idea. And then we made it playable, and then we kept playing it, and then we kept making it better, and now we're here.
Now, to make it a thing, we need to tell you how that thing works. Coming up on this podcast, we have a few sections that we think will be very, very helpful in getting across how this game works. We're going to have a section on lore and a section on a mechanic. Today's section on lore will be about the setting of the game, and the section on mechanic will be about how we make a character. And the character we'll be talking about today is one of the first characters ever built in the game. I can't call him a baby, because he's not even a little bit adorable. And you will understand why I say that when we come to make Benedict Brideshead.
Who is the son of a baron. Should be noted.
Who is the son of a baron.
Each week we're going to come back to these sections. We're going to talk a little bit about lore and we're going to talk a little bit about mechanic. And you can tune in to whatever you want to get a bit more information on, whatever gives you that spark for playing a new role-playing game. And we're hoping also to have some guests on who also work on the project with us. So expect to hear a lot from our illustrators and a little bit from just everybody who we've been working on this project with over the course of the last 2 years. Yeah, and also if at any point you have questions that you want to send in, we'll repeat this at the end, but you can send them to Daemonologie RPG. That's demon spelt with an AE and an IE instead of a Y at the end of Daemonologie. And that's daemonologierpg@gmail.com, and you can reach us there if you've got any questions at all. And we'll get around to answering them at the end. So Chavonne, shall we crack on?
I believe we should. The fearful abounding at this time in this country of these detestable slaves of the devil, the witches and enchanters, hath moved me, beloved reader, to dispatch in post this following treatise of mine. His Majesty, King James. The year is 1606. Two forms of tyranny stalk the British Isles. King James I and VI has launched a war against the forces of the devil, casting out the moderates at the Royal Inquisition and creating the position of Witchfinder General for the ambitious Lord Salisbury. The following decades would see these witchfinders murder hundreds of innocents during sham trials as the devil laughed from the sidelines. Meanwhile, the crown of the Empire of the Nine Circles would continue to make pacts with mortals, growing stronger with each soul signed away. Pacts were given out to any and all that would take them. But the prejudiced profiles of witchcraft used by the witchfinders meant a true demon's hand was rarely caught. When, by fluke of their ham-fisted hunts, a hand was caught, their execution only ensured their soul for their demonic patron, speeding it on its way to fuel the fires of damnation. The crown was fighting a losing battle, and the people of the land would suffer. But another tale lies beneath this one. Lord Matthew Stern, once Royal Inquisitor General, saw the fate of this war as it began. When he was unceremoniously expelled from his position, he formed his own force, a Secret Inquisition, outside of the jurisdiction of the Crown. With the help of Dr. Stein Gowry, a druid wanted by the Crown that he had met decades prior on assignment, he formed a haven for those magicians considered maleficar by the Crown, the Concilium Magus. These ventures were all funded by a long-standing ally to Stern, Duchess Atherton, and her trust, the Concerned Citizens for Clean Living. The year is this year, 1862. Through seance, you shall commune with the inquisitors of these three associations and divine their fate. You will act with an agenda of mercy, fighting the tide of public hysteria fueled by the Crown, while finding those with the command of black magic, severing their connection to it, and leading them to the safety of the Concilium. Here we lay out our discoveries, under the name chosen by the short-sighted king. Daemonologie. Now, the game itself of Daemonologie is carried out within a frame narrative for fun. And this frame narrative for fun takes place in the mid-19th century, at the height of this spiritualist, the revival of the spiritualist moment, shall we say. The academics who have written Daemonologie, Wilcox and Brown, who are of course no relation to us.
I don't know who those... Yeah, not us. Not us at all. Not our, like, dads or anything.
No, we don't know her.
who is she, have been commissioned by unnamed spiritualist society. I don't know if we can name a spiritualist society for risk of being sued, but because it might still exist. But one of them. And they have rediscovered this account of the Secret Inquisition. To be clear, those academics are us.
They are us.
They are.
Because I thought, Chavonne, when you said that we didn't know who they were, but no, they are us. Oh yeah, we actually wrote the book. Incredible.
We did. The game takes place in several layers. You are in the 1800s, and then you go to a séance, and you are transported to the 1600s. But what kind of 1600s is this?
This of course lets you be as adopt the persona of a fabulous Victorian fop if you so desire, and have all sorts of fun in any manner of unrestrained fashion, as voyeuristic a play as you wish. Of yes, I do wish to track through the fields of Great Britain. I would simply not do this myself because they're too muddy. But this character I'm playing certainly shall. But our 1600s is certainly an alternate history, because unfortunately there was no Secret Inquisition out there trying to stop the relentless pursuit of witchfinders in our real history. Instead, we do have this opportunity to go back in time and change the way that things work, because the 1600s of our timeline has plentiful prejudices, which in the course of this game you are welcome to do with what you will. You can reimagine this history in whatever makes it more comfortable for play, because sometimes it's not something you want to broach in the course of a game, but sometimes it is something that you wish to explore with a bit more detail, and maybe imagine some sort of utopian history or some sort of history where you can undo some of the great wrongs. But another aspect of this 1600s is that its cosmology is founded on a basis that many of the beliefs and belief systems and faiths are all in fact true. We were just talking about how our cosmology, particularly the Hells, with its many dimensions, resembles that of Buffy. Of course, in the confines of Daemonologie, however, we're focusing on the British Isles. So this has a legacy of Celtic, Druidic, fairy history, as well as a focus on the Abrahamic Hells, which we entitle the Nine Hells, in legacy to, I suppose, Dante. But we're going to talk a bit more about that next time. We're going to go a bit more into our cosmology a bit next time. Instead, we're going to focus today on who the Secret Inquisition is and the associations that make them up. So, Chavonne, who are these folks?
As we've already said, this Inquisition is not the gaggle of out for itself mercenary witchfinders that we have in our actual world 1600s, and they are not the king's witchfinders as we have in the game. The first group, the Secret Inquisition itself, are a bunch of practical investigators. They are headed by Lord Stern, who left the king's service once he became King of England. For those who are history buffs, James the Sixth and James the First became James the First in 1603, 1604. So it's basically not too long after James becomes king. Lord Stern is like, this guy seems to be a murderous psychotic.
It's nice when you realise that about your friends.
Sometimes we can't support our friends when all they want to go around doing is putting on trial women that know maths.
that R was like, I think I know guys like that.
Yes. Sadly, this vein of wandering upon on travel with no mess has not vanished.
Yeah, no, it's practically undergoing a resurgence.
And so, if you, like Lord Stern, would like to stop the tide of men that want to put women on trial for knowing maths, you too can be a Secret Inquisitor. These are working in tandem with the Concilium Magus, who are the practitioners of magic being hunted down by the king and his witchfinders in their obsessive search for anyone who does magic.
All magic looks like witchcraft to them.
Every single bit. The Concilium is hiding out in an undisclosed location in Wales, the Wattenmoot, hiding in the mountains. And again, for history buffs, the Welsh mountains have been a great place to hide.
Yeah, that's an item of history, is if you want to hide in the Welsh mountains, more than possible.
You can do it for ages.
It's like it's a bit like a Hogwarts, but without the conjuring away shit.
Yeah.
There's no spell in the game for that, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that that's not there.
Yeah, feasibly, someone could just, if they looked hard enough, find it, and then be confronted by several hundred magicians.
that would be bad for them.
And lastly, we have the concerned citizens. Now, when Lord Stern left the King's service, he still needed money to pay his inquisitors and to fund this whole operation. And that's where the concerned citizens come in. They are wealthy, they are sneaky, and they love to chat. And in doing so, they are taking money from the crown and embezzling it, essentially, back to Lord Stern's Inquisition.
Yeah, a little bit of economic activism, hiding out in the courts of the king, and then just siphoning off funds to better organizations.
In the book, some of the characters who we have in the Concerned Citizens, especially, are real people who existed at the time.
Yeah, there's a wealth of minor nobility with association to the crown, which we have liked to imagine are probably far more radical than they were.
Yeah, we've done them the service of making them seem really cool.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
So in these associations are the 3 types of professions that you can have. You've got those practical investigators, you've got those magic users, and the wealthy, sneaky people. And so they break down into 3 more professions each. So we're going to go through these and sort of talk about the lore behind them all. So in the Royal Inquisition, you first get the Presidium Knights. Now, they are holdovers from the Dread Order of St. Michael that existed under the Royal Inquisition and still exists in part today. They use rune magic and they slot these, I imagine them sort of in the style of, you know, those runes in Dishonored? A bit like them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm on the level.
And they slot them in their body, and it gives them different anti-magic abilities. Now they're sort of like they're the frontline soldiers. They get the most weapons, and they know exactly how to use them.
They are followed by the Royal Investigators. Now, they're still being called Royal Investigators despite all of them having stopped working for the Crown because they earned that name, damn it, and they're going to keep it. They are our early 17th century CSI. They're at the cutting edge of forensic and deductive technique. If anyone here has seen the film Sleepy Hollow, imagine them all being a bit like Ichabod Crane, except not cowards.
Now I want to rewatch Sleepy Hollow.
I was so sure that I'd watch it again at Halloween, and I didn't, and I'm ashamed of myself for that.
That's a failure for both of us.
And I've not seen Nightmare Before Christmas yet, so I'm going to probably do that this week.
Yeah, revealing the time in which we're recording again. They are followed by our thaumaturges. Thaumaturges are people whose main abilities come from the summoning of miracles. But there's a problem. They're members of the Horusum Consistory, so they have discovered that recalling miracles that have been granted by the heavens is actually pretty hard. Now, the heavens give those out sort of on a needs-must basis, and so they've found another method of doing that. And beyond the realm that we go to when we dream, there's this place called the Place Beyond, where things live that watch us. These are sort of like your eldritch Lovecraftian horrors. And they've been watching. And when they watch and remember things, things happen. So all the miracles that the thaumaturges conjure are remembrances by these incredibly powerful things just outside of where we live. Now that's bad. And the thaumaturges know that they're on a bad train there, but it's incredibly powerful to just cast a miracle.
I mean, if you could have a cosmically horrible bootleg, you might do it.
That's how I'm going to watch Sleepy Hollow.
Now we come to those magicians we're talking about, those hiding in the Welsh mountains. The first kind of magician that we have in the game is, as we have said, we are working from the folklore British Isles. They are the Feybound. The Feybound use fairy magic. Half of their souls are in the realm of the Fey. And this gives them access to different powers related to the Fey. Powers of illusion, powers of creation, powers of elemental, not always distraction, but elemental destruction also. And they get to summon fairies.
Yeah, they're all gifts from their fairy patron, which I guess makes them a little bit like a warlock.
Yeah, they are. They aren't too dissimilar to being a fairy warlock. There is a great deal more whimsy involved with the patrons than there are with with the warlock gods. We've got Queen Mab, who, for fans of Shakespeare, appears in a soliloquy, just one.
And then really just history went with Queen Mab. They were just like, yeah, Queen Mab's one of the fairies, right, Shakespeare? And Shakespeare's like, oh, yeah, no, totally. Based off total reality there, yeah, 100%.
We've got the King of Cats, who is... Wilcox, how would you describe the King of Cats?
Lazy and old, and has their position through great trickery a long time ago, but now they're just sitting there having a great time.
And not a figure of speech. He is a big cat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have the Morrigan, who is the triple-faced Irish goddess of war.
Oh yeah, she's terrifying. She's terrifying. Terrifying.
Away from terror, who do we have next, Wilcox?
We've got the Druid. Now, the Druid conjures very much druidic magic. It relates to the earth, to nature, to animals. They have the ability to have animal companions who they commune with. They have the ability to commune with nature and learn what location has experienced and seen in the last time. And their magic is called enjoinings, as they take reagents from the essential creatures of nature and use them to summon great powers from the earth, or the air, or the fire, or darkness, or light, all these primal powers. I missed one in there, but can you tell us which? It's not a competition. I'm just an idiot.
And as we move away from enjoining with nature, we move towards enjoining with the heavens. They're not called enjoinings for ritualists. That was a figure of speech. Please don't become confused. Ritualists use cantrips in ceremonies. And what they are doing is they are talking to the divine. They are talking to the heavens. The heavens, rather like the hells in this game, again, function like the heavens and hells in Buffy. There are lots of dimensions described as being heavens. Their relation, ritualists, is initially to the Abrahamic heavens, but they can branch out to other divine beings and ask for their aid. Now, the cantrips are things that they can do all of the time by using a holy symbol they keep on their body and fill with divine power, whilst the ceremonies are big spells that have large, longer-lasting effects.
The main way that they maybe differ from the thaumaturges is that miracles are always pretty wildly powerful, whereas cantrips are a little bit less so, and the ceremonies take a very long time to cast. The ritualists are sort of your nerd mages. They're scientists who've developed this technique of communing with the heavens through great effort, learning, and practical knowledge, whereas the thaumaturge is just like, can I have some help? Great, terrible being.
Which, spoilers, does not work out well for the Horus of Consistory in the end.
Oh yeah, no, that's bad for them. So then we come to our convicts, our criminals, and our very wealthy folk, who are all, of course, the same strata of society. The very wealthy folk just don't like to be considered as such.
Is there a point being made about how rich people and crooks do the same things, but one goes to prison and and others don't?
Chavonne, I wouldn't go as far as to say such things.
No, of course. So
capitalism is crime.
Our first criminal, trickster, our first trickster, reformed rogue. Now, the rogues in this game do have some of the function of rogues in other games. They can do your sneaky, murdery, poison stuff. But they also function, because this is the 17th century, this is about intrigue, as spy masters.
Yeah, they'll develop large networks of people who perform ingenious plots during the nighttime, dancing about the region and making general nefarious acts occur.
Speaking of nefarious acts, next we have the charlatan. Now, when I described the charlatan to a friend of mine, they said, "Oh, so they're the bad guys, right?"
You'd think.
They are incredibly skilled liars and deceivers and manipulators of public opinion.
Yeah, they're bastards, but sometimes you need people on your side, especially when you're going into a region that you don't know anybody. You need to have people on your side very, very quickly. And so they're experts at just bending people's will to theirs and thinking of people as pawns in a great game. They develop very slowly towards discovering their own humanity, if you desire. Otherwise, they will likely die in a scandal.
The charlatan is the closest you could come to playing an anti-villain in the game.
Speaking of anti-villains, the noble, the crusading noble, given tremendous wealth, and whose main ability is having other people in their employ. The noble dances around with much, much, much more money than everyone else, and they have at their disposal a great retinue of folk who will just do things for them. They come with great abilities, such as, well, you can have a set of knights that come at your beck and call, but also you can have a chef de cuisine. who will simply supply your party with little bonuses in the form of, some bread that you will share and break with others later, or a cheese board that helps you dream better.
I can't stress how quickly all of the nobles in the game have gone for the chef.
No, it's chef de cuisine all the way.
Everyone wants to learn fancy cooking and have a fancy cook with them. I can't explain it. They've also been described as professional shitposters, the nobles.
Oh, that sounds about right. So that's all of the professions of the game. That's them from not so much a mechanical background, but a lore background. And so instead, to give you a bit more of a enlightenment on how they work functionally, that's what we're going to do next. And we're going to start talking about one of our first characters that was ever made.
Very close to my heart.
So we're going to make a character, or rather, take you through how we made the very first character.
This was Chavonne's first character. So, Chavonne, who is it?
Benedict Brideshead. Benedict began the game very earnest, very into his books, really wanting to just help people, being rather annoying doing it, but meaning well. And now, as he is, Benedict still wants to help people, but is also a vicious cur.
So the very first thing that needs to be done when making a character is selecting a profession. These are the ones that we detailed in the lore section. These are related to the associations of the Secret Inquisition, the Concilium of Mages, and the Concerned Citizens for Clean Living. There are 3 in each. Yeah, Chavonne, who is Benedict? What do they get up to?
Benedict is a ritualist. Benedict knows books, and he knows magic from books. He didn't learn it organically. He doesn't like walking around in fields.
He is a scientific cleric, engaging in the fruits of the newly developed scientific methods to create formulaic rites that call power from the unknowable heavens. This is his charge, and these will later on form the types of abilities that he gets, called specialities, and the types of talents he gets, which inform the way that he can interact with the world. The next thing to work out is, how old is Benedict? Is he summer, which makes him youthful? Is he autumn, which makes him lived? Or is he winter, which makes him aged? Now, these are terms that are very loose and can be how you personally identify with them. You know, you can have somebody who's 80 and still youthful. But you can also have somebody who is 20 and very aged. I'm talking about myself, but just complaining about my knees. So, Chavonne, what is Benedict?
Benedict, to everyone's surprise, is actually in his mid-30s. He is autumn, but because he's not really done very much with his life up to the point of becoming an Inquisitor, he just sort of seems at the start like a bored teenager, but he is not.
Yeah, he's read a lot of books. He spent a lot of his life reading and sort of living a life of leisure, but still.
He's a posh nerd. Benedict's a posh nerd.
So, the next step is engaging with the core attributes of your character. Now, these are split into 5, and each attribute has its own set of skills related to it. So the 5 attributes are fitness, constitution, sway, virtue, and intelligence. Fitness determines the ability to control one's body in action. It's not just about your raw physical strength, but it's also about your speed and your ability to work with weaponry and forms of transport. Constitution is the physical and mental limits that you may be pushed to. These include your physical ability to resist harm, as well as your ability to resist mystic assault on your soul, as well as your ability to traipse through nature and deal with boring and mundane tasks. Your sway is your ability to talk to people in all manner of forms through very regimented etiquette, as well as forming networks of people and simply making people like you. Virtue is the measure of your soul. Your ability to engage with the esoteric aspects of life encouraging theological understanding in others and compassion, as well as going to the realm of the dreaming and interacting there. And finally, intelligence is the affinity one has for the application of complex theory. The ability to sneak about unheard is a matter of intelligence. The ability to notice details is a matter of intelligence. The ability to work with complex machinery is a matter of intelligence here. So, what's Benedict going to specialise into? As he's Autumn, he gets 2 points which he can put into this.
It's going to be virtue because he does all that book learning, and it's going to be intelligence again because of all that book learning.
All that he just learns about all those books, the virtuous ones and the intellectual ones. This is who Benedict is. With attributes, these determine the basic roles that you're going to be making in the game. We won't go too detailed into those just now, but these are informed and supported by the knowledges that your character has. The area of medical knowledges, academic knowledges, cultural knowledges, esoteric knowledges, practical knowledges, and linguistic knowledges. What's Benedict going to be specialised in?
So, on the countdown board of knowledges, I'm going to take... I shall take 3 from esoteric, so I shall go for Daemonologie and Bound Taxonomy, which is knowing about demons, the devil's minions, and magical creatures likely to be bound by witches through psychic magic. I shall take church law, which will let me know about ecclesiastical law and the contemporary functioning of the church. And folklore, which is, it's self-explanatory, the word folklore, I feel, I hope.
A lot of knowledges as well are specialised to the areas that a character is familiar with. Benedict's also going for a linguistic knowledge, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going for Celtic.
So Benedict will have folkloric knowledges from any Celtic region, as it's a part of his linguistic understanding. But also he'd get knowledges of folklore that relate to his specific experiences through life. Where's Benedict from?
Oh, Benedict is from Ferry Hill. Ferry Hill is actually, and this also surprises people, Benedict is a northerner. Benedict is from County Durham.
Well, so Benedict will be able to understand much of England's folklore, but now because of his linguistic knowledge of the Celtic regions, he'll understand a bit more folkloric knowledge in the Celtic regions as well. So he's got 1 more knowledge left. What's he going to go for?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. It's engineering.
Engineering.
Because like I said, he's a posh nerd.
He's a posh nerd. He's read those treaties. He's read how to build a trebuchet 101.
Which he used mostly to amuse people in dinner parties before, but now it's actually helpful.
It's finally useful. We've all read something like that. So next up, Benedict's going to get a background. So what do you think of our long list? You can be a knight, you can be a farmer, you can have been a sailor or a hunter, you could have been a painter or a musician, and each of these come with their own skills. So they'll give you 1 more skill proficiency from your attributes and 1 more field of knowledge. And they'll also give you a talent, which, as I said earlier, determines the way that you interact with the game world.
Now, obviously, all of those things sound lovely, but Benedict's not going to do any of that nonsense because he's a squire.
He's grown up in the gentry. So this will give him one of the sway skills, command, so he'll be able to boss people about very well. And it'll also give him a knowledge of heraldry and genealogy, which, considering Benedict, just makes sense. It's also going to give him the talent that he just starts each adventure with a bit more money.
He gets sort of a taste of the crusading nobles' great big pot of money.
Just a little bit. So now we come down to the next stage, which is weapon proficiencies.
Now, fighting isn't central to the game. Fighting is dangerous, it is deadly. Normally you want to have a really great plan for when a fight's about to happen so that you don't get surprised. When we were first playing this game, there was a wonderful moment when 3 characters happened upon a skeleton and it almost killed them.
One of the most basic monsters in the game, if you're not ready for it, and it just catches up with you, it can push you down a hill, and you're not going to be working very well with that. You want to be able to be prepared and able to trap any monster, or simply run away.
Running away is encouraged. It is healthy.
So Benedict will be able to, as a ritualist, pick from 2 of 4 weapon proficiencies. He'll be able to have blunt weapons, polearms, pistols, and or muskets. So what's Benedict going to go for?
The things that keep enemies furthest away, so it's polearms and muskets.
So he'd then go on to pick some weapons here. There are a number of different polearms and muskets he'd be able to pick from that give him advantages in specific situations. But now we come across his theology. What does Benedict believe?
Benedict is a Catholic. At this time, in England, in the real world, Catholics were practicing in secret because of Guy Fawkes trying to awkwardly blow up the king. Beforehand, they're all practicing in secret.
You're allowed to make it flexible, as we talked about earlier, as to how your theology exists in the game. So that's all of the preparation outside of being a ritualist. This is now where we get to go down into the real exciting elements.
There are 2 core features for ritualists. There are the holy symbol, which is a totem and artifact they carry on them that they imbue with holy power. And there is their ceremonial magic, which is those scientific rituals within seals that we were speaking of before.
So now he'll get to pick 3 of those cantrips and 2 of those ceremonies, and then he'll be ready to start the game. What's he going to go for, Chavonne?
We're going to roll out nice and heavy by saying that he gets 1 ceremony for free. Every ritualist gets the Res Sacra, which allows you to go around sanctifying places to practice your ceremonies in. But he's going to go, first of all, for Magna Captionum, which is translated the Big Trap.
Because all of the ceremonies have Latin names, but if you translate them, they sound distinctly less impressive.
Very much so. Very much so. And he will then go to help out his buddies with his second ceremony, Donum Vitae, which is the gift of life. But then he needs some cantrips. Cantrips are spells that he casts by using a holy symbol that he has on him. Now, the cantrips he is choosing will be Wrath and Mercy, because he loves the drama of firing lightning from the sky.
Yeah, and if you're not careful with Wrath and Mercy, there's a reason it's called Wrath and Mercy. If you don't show mercy at the right time, then it can very much backfire on the ritualist.
We have Wondrous Binding, so he can bind monsters with golden cords and then flee to allow someone else better at fighting to do the job.
Small trap.
A small And then, once again, to help out the fam, we will have Gracious Boon.
Gracious Boon. Lovely. So a little bit of a smaller heal than a Donum Vitae. So lovely. That's all Benedict needs. So in about 15 minutes, we've prepared a character. You know, of course we wrote the game, so it's going to be easier for us. But we've prepared a character who is ready for play. At this point, it's a perfect opportunity to, if you haven't done so already, create a backstory, give your character a name. But those are also excellent ways to be a starting idea. You can start from that backstory and that name, and then flesh out your character with the rules. So Benedict's ready to play. He's been playing for a long time now, and he's a higher rank than most people. What rank is he now, Chavonne?
Benedict is a rank 6 mage, which makes him an adeptus in the association. And when you get to rank 6 in any association of the game, you then get a nickname, and also perhaps a title. And Benedict's nickname, which will let you know what he's become, is Benedict the Vexatious.
He's come a long way. From simply running about and telling them that he's the son of a baron. In fact, he now is the baron.
Yes. His dad passed away peacefully whilst Benedict was on assignment in Taunton.
Sad times. But as your characters develop, they get these fun little quirks like this, like little titles and nicknames that just give those extra little pieces of Jacobean England to provide that little bit of fun there. So Benedict is ready to play, and we are done for this episode. In future points, we will be finishing this with any questions that might pop up. We'll also be answering a few extra things and having special guests on. But that is us. This is the basic function of the game. This is its setting. And these are the core attributes of a character. In future, we'll be going into a deeper dive into the magic, the monsters, deeper sort of aspects of each part of the game, and the way that the rules work in a bit more detail. I've been Alex Wilcox.
And I've been Chavonne Brown.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit at Daemonologie RPG. That's Daemonologie with D-A-E and then with an I-E at the end instead of a Y. That's Daemonologie RPG. And you can also send in emails to us at daemonologierpg@gmail.com. So thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.